Hey everyone! Tonight we're tackling one of humanity's most incredible survival achievements. How indigenous peoples crafted and inhabited tipis that remained warm and livable at temperatures that would send modern humans into panic mode because the thermostat dipped 5 degrees. So take a moment before you settle in, hit like and subscribe. Only do it if you genuinely appreciate the content we create here. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what your local time is. It's endlessly fascinating seeing viewers from across the globe join us. Now grab some headphones, maybe crank up some ambient sound in the background, and let's embark on tonight's exploration together. When you picture a dwelling constructed to withstand winters at -30, the kind of cold that makes your eyebrows reconsider their existence, you'd probably envision something massive, reinforced, and deliberately hostile. Towering stone fortifications, minuscule openings, a fireplace the size of a separate building. Essentially, a fortress without the prestige. But the communities who genuinely flourished in that climate weren't sheltered in concrete boxes. They inhabited tipis, sophisticated streamlined structures that seem uncomplicated from afar, but are secretly more intelligent than most structures we construct nowadays. And let me tell you plainly, tipis don't get nearly enough recognition. Had Europeans discovered them first, they would have composed symphonies about them. There would be monuments, celebrations, entire departments of architecture studying them as sacred models of thermal architecture. Yet because this ingenuity originated from Aboriginal societies, an astonishing number of history textbooks dismiss it and call it simply a tent. A tent? That's identical to referring to a spacecraft as merely a flying metal box with delusions of grandeur. From a distance, a tipi looks elegant and stripped down, exactly the sort of aesthetic that gets shared on Instagram with hashtags about sustainable living. However, every component was engineered this way because generations of observers understood the region intimately and mastered precisely how wind, precipitation, and temperature interacted. Not hypothesized. Genuinely learned. Meanwhile, colonists on neighboring continents were assembling awkward wooden huts that accumulated smoke as if they were trying to slowly poison themselves. What strikes me most is how beautifully the tipi harmonizes with its setting. It doesn't resist the wind. It diverts it. It doesn't try to accumulate snow. It sheds it similar to a bull brushing off minor irritation. Modern architecture could never. They panic at a single snowflake and immediately fear structural catastrophe. The tipis reply, "How amusing. Challenge accepted." The reality is I have deep respect for that. It's architectural self-assurance. The truth is clear. The tipi might represent one of humanity's most brilliant constructions. Transportable, thermally controlled, well-ventilated, comfortable through winter, cool during summer, quick repairs, simple relocation. Even contemporary home retailers struggle to match that combination. Modern furniture suppliers offer instruction manuals that read like hostage warnings. The tipi functioned as something more than shelter. It represented a climate control apparatus. Totally adjustable, entirely effective, and thoroughly created for a world constantly attempting to transform you into an icy monument. That explains why occupants within a tipi remained alive while the outdoors bellowed like it was auditioning for a terror drama. Before a tipi could transform into the heated, graceful refuge it accomplished, it required structural supports, not the spooky variety. It needed sticks, lengthy sticks, unbent sticks, durable sticks. Thankfully, the northern lands had precisely what was needed, the mountain pine. A plant apparently custom-built for tipi engineering, as if Mother Nature was demonstrating off. Let's examine these posts for a bit. They were extended, sleek, resilient, and surprisingly robust. Fundamentally, the supermodels of the botanical universe. When you've tried moving a massive log across grassland, you realize that lightweight and robust rarely coexist. Yet mountain pines accomplish it. Legitimately, vegetation shouldn't possess that caliber of superior composition. The selection process wasn't arbitrary. Communities didn't just march into the forest, gesture wildly, and declare that one. They possessed exact knowledge of which plants performed and which didn't. What emerges is sincere viewpoint. This demonstrates where Aboriginal craftsmanship genuinely surpasses contemporary methods. The majority of people can't identify a ripened avocado without experiencing psychological breakdown. Yet these organizations selected structural resources with mathematical assurance. After removal and readying, the posts were assembled into a tripod structure, serving as the teepee's base. This tripod wasn't unsteady. It wasn't provisional. It wasn't see what happens. Absolutely, it was stable enough to endure plains gales that could strip the personality from a buffalo. And let's acknowledge, if your residence survives a plains storm, you've earned your accomplishment medal. Following the tripod arrangement, additional posts were situated around it following a systematic helical pattern. This wasn't merely decorative, while it definitely appears wonderful. The spiraling improved load circulation, enabled snow to slide effortlessly, and created a skeletal system durable enough to oppose ferocious winds. This represents the architectural sophistication contemporary arenas promote. Except the teepee accomplished it centuries prior, lacking steel, calculators, or pricey architectural advisors. Here's a detail people typically overlook. Mountain pine posts were reused for decades, sometimes lifetimes. They journeyed alongside clans from settlement to settlement, through seasonal transitions, throughout hunting territories and shifting locations. Picture a residence with recyclable surfaces that remain functional through repeated usage. Something modern furniture purchasers could only fantasize about. In summary, the mountain pine wasn't merely a vegetation. It served as the structural base of the plains residences. An amazing architectural contribution from the landscape. In truth, contemporary structures might acquire some knowledge from those posts. The conical geometry might look minimal, maybe excessively minimal, yet therein lives the design's concealed brilliance. Its architectural mastery concealed underneath apparent effortlessness. You examine it and believe, oh, attractive geometric form. However, when cold arrives, thermometers crash to below freezing, the environment erupts across the grasslands like it's overdue for an appointment. And out of nowhere, that geometric form conducts wonders. Begin with the fundamentals. A geometric cone is aerodynamic. A teepee doesn't battle the environment. It doesn't argue with gusts. It doesn't rigidly declare it won't alter like rectangular European residences. It merely inclines backward and tells the air, do whatever you want. While the force slides up and passes overhead like it's gotten emotionally dismissed. I've consistently believed that if colonial Europeans arrived with less architectural arrogance and greater readiness to observe, they would have examined the teepee and declared, so that's the method to avoid perishing from hypothermia. Yet no, they assembled rectangles, icy rectangles, smoky rectangles, boxes that hemorrhaged thermal energy like they intended to freeze the worldwide landscape. Meanwhile, the teepee with just sticks and hides performed like it earned a diploma in physics. An incredible characteristic of the triangular silhouette concerns its snow-shedding capability. Precipitation doesn't settle respectfully on the exterior. It glides right away. This prevents the structure from getting crushed beneath bulk and generates a kind of self-maintaining device. You don't need to ascend onto your rooftop with a broom, shout your frustration, and contemplate your choice to inhabit frigid places. The teepee maintains itself. The outline additionally influences thermal circulation. Heat energy rises organically, and within a teepee it cycles upward around the middle, then descends along the perimeter. The consequence? Consistent warmth distribution, devoid of icy sections, absent from penetrating drafts stabbing your organs as you rest. I wouldn't claim identical things concerning contemporary buildings. Don't overlook steadiness. A teepee withstands atmospheric disturbances that would demolish a colonial residence like a young kid unwrapping a present. The geometric structure directs tension outward via the posts into the terrain. This explains why teepees curve, adapt, and survive rather than splintering. A structure doesn't need to conquer the elements. It requires collaboration, something communities forget regularly. Simply put, had the geometric form developed in European regions, architects would proceed celebrating it presently. There would be sculptures, processions, a ceremonial observance honoring the magnificent pyramid of architectural excellence. Yet Aboriginal peoples designed it quietly, competently, and elegantly, since the purpose wasn't accolades. The purpose was enduring, and the geometric form accomplished that. Once the teepee's skeletal frame rose boldly against the plain's climate, appearing like the world's most threatening triangular framework. It was occasion to decorate it, and not simply any substance. Zero soft coverings, zero inadequate colonial fabric, nothing uncertain. Teepees got wrapped in bison hides, one of nature's greatest cold weather solutions and genuinely superior to numerous offerings at pricey outdoor merchants. Let me be straightforward, bison hides weren't selected due to convenience. They were selected due to perfection. A bison operates like a portable heating unit encased in hair and tissue. Surviving cold so extreme even the precipitation thought about relocating. When a beast can dismiss sub-zero weather similar to mild temperatures, its epidermis is precisely what you want surrounding your residence. Joining the hides occurred through careful work. It wasn't grab a needle and hope for positive outcomes. It demanded expertise, years of repetition, and countless ages of honed expertise. The hides got softened, tailored, and connected through animal tendons. Pliable, enduring, and vastly superior to contemporary textiles. Its clear cutting-edge textiles would surrender if they encountered what tendon could accomplish. You might tie down an automobile with that material. Once connected, the layer formed one tremendous covering, a frost barrier sufficient to humiliate any historical emperor. Arranging it over the teepee occurred systematically, never disorganized or spontaneous. It was done sequentially, positioning the connections to direct atmosphere over them rather than underneath them. These are the intricacies colonists overlooked. They believed shelter required hardwood, brickwork, and religious conviction. Meanwhile, Aboriginal peoples constructed an aerodynamic, thermally secured, weather-sealed marvel utilizing hides and understanding. One element I genuinely adore is how the hide layer remained versatile. Throughout winter, supplementary hides might be added for increased insulation. Throughout warmer seasons, regions might be rolled up for air circulation. Meanwhile, most European colonists invested winter alternating through freezing and self-asphyxiating through their dwellings, contemplating what mysterious influence prevented satisfying habitation. Hint, it was terrible construction choices. What emerges is unsolicited viewpoint, though I'm providing it regardless. The bison hide wrapping represents perhaps the most graceful representation of community adaptation. The hides represented a contribution, rather than an infinite supply to waste, something to acknowledge. Utilize thoughtfully and demonstrate gratitude. The concluding result, a teepee wrapped so efficiently and skillfully that perhaps the harshest winter atmosphere had to take a breath and acknowledge, well, okay, I concede defeat. Should you have witnessed a bison closely, you comprehend two realities immediately. Primarily, it is enormous. Second, it is outfitted for winter like it's gearing up to fight the winter age. Bison hide wasn't merely insulating. It was absurdly thermally protective. Unfairly protective. Protective in a manner that questions the legitimacy of pricey contemporary cold climate clothing. I've donned apparel promoted as climate-resistant, thermally insulated, or winter-appropriate. Yet a bison in winter conditions consistently appears more relaxed than I do venturing to my mailbox. Which exemplifies the reason bison hides shaped the cold protection layer of the teepee. A bison invested its existence externally, casually enduring below freezing conditions that cause humans alarm. Below zero temperatures. That constitutes everyday life for a bison. The substrate is heavy, the hides are thick, and the thermal qualities are so exceptional that atmospheric moisture falling onto a bison doesn't even melt, implying its skin maintains warmth with that degree of performance. That's not biological fact. That's an impressive achievement. Picture stitching multiple hides collectively into one large weatherproof layer. It's akin to covering your whole residence in the territory's equivalent of a luxury Arctic survival outfit. Yet, unlike contemporary apparel manufacturers, the bison didn't attempt to oversell you with vocabulary like featherweight, atmospheric, or groundbreaking substance engineering. The covering basically replied, "I'll maintain your survival. You're appreciated." One additional thing I genuinely value, the hides underwent zero wastage. Nothing originating from a bison went unused. Flesh, bones, tendons, grease, hooves, each component served an application. The hides underwent processing, conditioning, processing, and arrangement utilizing expertise passed through centuries of transmission. Most individuals today struggle with assembling tabletop furniture from a Scandinavian supplier. Meanwhile, these communities transformed massive creature hides into airtight, freeze-resistant residential insulation. The hide's heaviness rendered them outstanding at blocking flowing atmosphere. Should you've never positioned yourself in a plains region throughout winter conditions, allow me to portray it. The atmosphere doesn't drift, it strikes. It behaves like it harbors unaddressed mental issues. It locates any aperture, any separation, any vulnerability.
Sweetening modifies gluten development and browning. It influences crumb structure and external surface development. Manufacturing-wise, it improves uniformity, partially because industry discovered that marginally sweeter items outsell equivalent items without sweetening. Not genuinely habit-forming, but more gratifying, more probably generating desire for extra consumption. A marginally more flavorful item surpasses identical item price higher, without added sweetening. Medieval bread contained zero extra sweetening. Carbohydrates were straightforward. Grain supplied negligible sugars. No manipulation of satisfaction existed.
The teepee didn't merely employ bison hides, it utilized them intelligently. If the bison hide exterior was the teepee's hefty protective layer, then the inner coating was the concealed engineering achievement most ignore. Initially, it seems straightforward. Merely an additional layer of hide or material fixed on the interior surfaces. However, actually, this coating changed the teepee from excellent shelter into how can this be hotter than a colonial dwelling constructed by a group of individuals with equipment and optimism. The coating generated a dual-layer protection arrangement. This wasn't random assumption. It represented purposeful arrangement, perfected through ages.
Picture inheriting a position ensuring protection, then learning immediately that safety represents illusion. This characterized Cleopatra, Vai's existence. Her parent, Ptolemy XII, administered Egypt experiencing unprecedented external demands. The Ptolemaic line, offspring of Macedonian commanders following Alexander's accomplishments, controlled Egypt approximately 3 centuries. Nonetheless, by Ptolemy XI's tenure, steadiness disappeared. The explanation, Rome. The increasing Roman state absorbed Mediterranean regions methodically. Egypt persisted independently partially because Rome hadn't yet resolved that incorporation justified military expense.
Rather than dissipating into the cold or gathering at the apex of the teepee, that heated air was steered downward throughout the inner, keeping a steady and pleasant temperature inside. The consequence was a thermal distribution mechanism so successful that even terrible winter conditions outside couldn't penetrate the interior. The rear coating furthermore functions significantly regarding vapor circulation. Vapors from the fundamental fire didn't drift haphazardly throughout the base, causing everyone to wheeze as if performing in a 1800s disease dramatization. Rather, the lining channeled the vapor skyward toward the opening for circulation, where movable panels permitted it to escape. The arrangement maintained equilibrium. Cooler atmosphere came in from the foundation edge of the teepee, absorbed temperature from the fire and rear thermal pocket, and circulated upward, expelling vapor while preserving thermal energy. From a functional perspective, the lining additionally prevented chilly gusts from dashing throughout the base, an issue that plagued European-style residences. Icy atmosphere merely couldn't sweep throughout the base whenever the lining delicately rerouted it skyward into the heated circulation. Foundation surfaces with hides and materials benefited significantly from this managed motion, generating an exceptionally cozy interior. The coating's ingeniousness originated from its flexibility.
The entire nutritional system depended on the river's cyclical behavior. Insufficient surging meant absent farming. Absent farming meant insufficient sustenance. Cleopatra witnessed governmental reaction, combining anxiety with helplessness. The revenue reserves already depleted from Roman payments stayed insufficient. The reserves that should have existed specifically for such situations proved limited. Officials attributed responsibility elsewhere. Her parent transmitted progressively demanding requests to Rome requesting aid, which obviously implied acceptance of forthcoming obligation. Grain expenditures increased sharply. Prosperous families initiated grain gathering, amplifying expenditure increases. Ordinary people experienced genuine hunger. Community organizations started fragmenting. Here lay the critical understanding Cleopatra internalized. Populations forget legitimacy rapidly when lacking sustenance. Dynasty antiquity becomes meaningless. Hallowed customs become meaningless. When populations cannot feed offspring, governmental authority means nothing. She comprehended, possibly at 15 or 16, something numerous authorities never realize. Governance constitutes fundamentally an agreement. The regime delivers balance and access to food. Populations reciprocally acknowledge authority, violate the agreement through insufficient supplies, and balance disintegrates with astonishing velocity.
Yet the vents routed the vapor skyward and outward, functioning similarly to a flexible chimney device. Through using a couple of lengthy posts, the vents might be expanded, contracted, or positioned in particular ways based on the atmospheric motion. Should the atmosphere altered, which it regularly occurred on the grasslands, typically with the excitement of somebody closing a barrier loudly, the vents might be repositioned to guarantee vapor circulated effectively. This enabled refreshing atmosphere to reach the foundation while heated air spiraled in a managed pattern. What renders this structure particularly clever involves how receptive it operates. The vents didn't want ropes, equipment, pulleys, or difficult technical components.
Commerce-related conversation in another, complexity in yet another. This represented strategic brilliance. A monarch communicating in the indigenous tongue seemed rooted in the nation. A monarch negotiating alone without intermediaries enjoyed significant benefit. A monarch comprehending the heritage and perspectives of numerous peoples could appeal to varied groups. Observers acknowledged her capability. Envoys noted that she questioned with greater understanding than men of greater age. The palace understood she was transforming into an independent factor, not merely as a princess, but as a potential participant in authority. Overwhelming all this remained Rome, the power whose presence hovered over Egypt's prospects. Cleopatra understood something numerous administrators overlooked. Rome represented no unified force. It constituted no consistent organism. Rome characterized a governing arrangement featuring competing factions, determined commanders, and interior disagreements. She examined Rome's governance with comparable intensity to her languages, which political figures held authority, which commanders impressed followers, which factions gained strength, which declined. She comprehended that if she someday possessed command, Egypt's perseverance would depend on navigating Rome's interior conflicts, manipulating various factions against each competing group. She recognized that directly fighting Rome constituted foolishness that would culminate in annexation and administration, yet positioning Egypt as strategically valuable, as something some Roman factions would discover more advantageous as a cooperative state than as annexed property, might maintain Egyptian freedom while appearing compliant. This method became her strategy developing in youth. Not direct confrontation with Rome, but transformation into someone Rome's varied groups recognized as essential, someone demonstrating sufficient political knowledge, someone Rome would discover more valuable as a coordinate than as vanquished territory. Upon Ptolemy Xi's passing, his record identified both Cleopatra and her more junior brother, Ptolemy XIII, as governing authorities. She was roughly 21 years. Her brother constituted a youth encircled by determined operators unwilling to permit an intelligent, self-directed female to possess real authority. The recognized pattern: those professing to assist the king pursued command. The court initiated delicate erasure. Cleopatra comprehended immediately. She understood that once sidelined, regaining authority will become nearly unattainable. She made a choice reforming her biography. She departed Alexandria. She transported herself into areas maintaining her backing. She initiated organizing. She established agreements. She acquired military assistance. She arranged not merely reinstatement, but triumph absolute sufficient that her command would be unquestionable.
A modest flame sufficed. The teepee didn't demand a massive spectacle to sustain warmth during below-freezing conditions, since the framework handled many of the heat retention responsibilities. A gentle flame might maintain the interior quite pleasantly. something that baffled early frontier observers who presumed you needed a fire large enough to melt the continent's frozen regions. Rather, the teepee depended on productive design rather than brute intensity, a lesson contemporary heating apparatus might stand to recall. The fireplace fulfilled multiple roles. It offered illumination throughout darkness, warmth for meal preparation, and comfort for relaxation. Vessels might be suspended above it. Dishes might be prepared nearby it. Additionally, in desperate circumstances, it filled in as a fundamental drying equipment. Vital in a setting wherever moist garments wasn't simply bothersome, yet a possible wellness danger. In spite of all this usefulness, the fire stayed remarkably contained. The vapor opening and vents prevented accumulation, and the lining assisted steer atmosphere upward, making certain that occupants weren't perpetually coughing or unable to view via a thick haze of combustion. Yet possibly the greatest element of the fireplace arrangement involved cooperation with the teepee's proportions. Throughout elevated temperatures, it generated a natural circulation that drew cool atmosphere from the base perimeter of the construction. This generated a self-regulating breathing mechanism that demanded no pipework, no metal components, and no winter expeditions onto slippery elevated surfaces to unclog anything. It remained simple to sustain and rapid to modify. It was, straightforwardly, a wonderful demonstration of attaining comfort and safety via deliberate framework rather than pressing intensity. The fundamental fireplace didn't overpower the teepee. It functioned together with it. Living conditions throughout a winter teepee weren't merely pleasant. It organized, deliberate, and remarkably livable. Have you inhabited a contemporary apartment created by somebody who apparently despises inhabitants? You'll value how effectively the interior of a teepee handled its room. Absolutely nothing was arbitrary. Nothing was discarded into a corner simply because all possessed an application, and that application usually sustained thermal comfort, unity, or continuity, preferably all simultaneously. The interior setup obeyed a functional reasoning created through ages. Bedding spots distributed throughout the perimeter wherever hides and furs defended the terrain from the bitter atmosphere outside. This band of bedding gave both comfort and a physical divider, offering each occupant individual area in spite of the transparent architectural layout.
Every written material, roll papyri, archived documents, anything recorded, got taken, transported to center, and duplicated by competent transcribers. Duplicates went back to retailers. Originals got retained. This procedure got termed vessel documents and became well known throughout the Mediterranean. It represented legitimized taking performed through authority. Nonetheless, the Ptolemies comprehended that information, once transcribed, didn't truly disappear from a retailer's possession. He maintained his duplicate. The center's acquisition of the authentic resembled intellectual multiplication, privileges exceeding genuine theft. However, the center's gathering strategy traversed much beyond harbor confiscation. The Ptolemies recruited mediators having essentially limitless spending capacity, who journeyed throughout the Mediterranean seeking unusual writings. These mediators opposed each other and versus independent collectors, increasing expenditures yet guaranteeing that unusual works traveled toward Alexandria. Moreover, Alexandria's importance as a commercial location signified that humans and items perpetually appeared from distant places. Authorities brought documents as diplomatic gestures. Dealers brought comprehension alongside material items. The settlement turned into an organic center for intellectual items. The outcome constituted gathering at remarkable extent. Countless thousands of rolled papyri, perhaps nearing 1 million.
Even desiccation apparatus for moist gear might be suspended via the framework overhead, leveraging increasing heated atmosphere. A teepee might change between a resting quarters, individual chamber, work environment, kitchen, and collecting chamber devoid of experiencing confined. Yet the authentic mystery concerned how the framework sustained societal unity. The comfortable conditions promoted communication. The rounded silhouette promoted engagement. The transparent room permitted traditions, communication, melody, and amusement. All throughout the Tempest exterior roared comparable to an irate musical efficiency. A winter teepee remained not merely refuge. It embodied a breathing, dynamic gathering area.
These individuals obtained something extraordinary, All monetary assistance, residence, meals, and entrance to the globe's greatest gathered comprehension, having no requirements beyond searching in their preferred directions. This atmosphere approach is being matched in civilization background, the greatest intellect of the period, getting optimal assistance in restricted barriers, functioning near each other, participating, challenging, and influencing one another. Picture it. A mathematician in one location handling geometric calculations. In a neighboring chamber, a healer examining remains, growing medicinal comprehension. In another section, philosophers examining existence, verse writers composing.
The foundation originated from a substrate of brush, vegetation, or carpets arranged downward to make distance separating the soil and interior. This preliminary substrate performed comparably to a neutral representative maintaining the glacial dirt from declaring conflict against everybody's feet. Positioning brush or carpets immediately on the dirt furthermore avoided dampness from drifting upward, crucial since absolutely nothing compares to the shock in cold temperatures of finding your blankets transformed into a sponge. Atop this preliminary substrate arrived hide blankets, particularly bison wrappings or deer covering.
Yet, maybe more significantly than any distinct accomplishment, remained the tradition manufactured. A civilization appreciating intellectual development supremely, where mathematical advancement was commemorated as communal victory, where professionals received compensation not for immediate marketplace worth, but because comprehending presence contained intrinsic significance. Controlling such amount minus framework would generate complete pandemonium. The solution came via someone, a verse writer and administrator whose operational capability harmonized with literary expertise. Someone manufactured a documentation, a massive multi-document directory functioning as a gathering's intellectual basis. It wasn't an easy directory. The documentation organized creators temporally and categorically. It summarized principal publications. It supplied creator background. It categorized documents with accuracy unmatched centuries afterward. It embodied the antique globe's initial thorough directory system. Someone investigating healing could instantly locate each recognized healing manuscript. A verse writer examining verse forms could follow how composition developed throughout regions. A mathematician could examine every gathered mathematical advancement. This arrangement methodology possessed profound ramifications. It permitted knowledge to advance methodically. A mathematician could comprehend what preceding mathematicians currently recognized, subsequently extending. A healer could examine accumulation of healing comprehension across epochs, subsequently executing investigation, establishing upon that base. The center furthermore recruited supervisors, not merely shelving personnel, but conceptual facilitators. They maintained deteriorating documents. They supervised translation efforts. They supported specialists navigating the gathering. They recognized that gathering significance isn't possessing documents, yet allowing that knowledge distributable. Professionalization flourished. Sections existed for every field. Mathematical documents grouped for comparison. Philosophical publication from competing philosophies. Followers of concepts, Epicureans, Aristotelians. Every faction occupied spaces.
Therefore, throughout the wind attempted to convert the grasslands into a icy struggle zone. Individuals inside positioned on pleasant terrain, engulfed in comfort, confirming repeatedly that intelligent planning surpasses intensity consistently. Perhaps the numerous impressive characteristics of the teepee didn't involve its comfort ranking, its effectiveness with vapor, or perhaps how beautifully it performed during sub-zero temperatures. Absolutely, the genuine shock concerns that the whole framework was movable. Also not technically movable that manner contemporary furniture proclaims to be, which ordinarily indicates regret follows within moments. The teepee was genuinely movable.
This constitutes the collection's destruction, sadness, obscurity concerning absence. We understand important publications, continuing via replacements elsewhere. Yet, what comprised treatises persisting just in the center's gathering, which philosophical customs got preserved solely there, which scientific understandings got transcribed nowhere beyond. The center never collapsed in solitary catastrophic occasion, though fictional descriptions frequently characterize it. Conversely, it persisted via deterioration across generations, each injuring it, till lastly what constituted the greatest quantity accumulation dissolved. The opening substantial hurt happened following Caesar's armed engagement in Alexandria in the 48th previous era. Fighting erupted throughout. The harbor ignited. Repositories keeping documents heading toward the center ignited. Thousands of documents disappeared. The center endured this preliminary strike. The principal gathering persisted. Students maintained procedures. The organization persisted functioning. Following constituted reduced, more gradual deterioration. Egypt progressively stayed underneath Roman authority. Monetary assistance turned intermittent. The vigorous academic environment that flourished under the Ptolemies dispersed. Specialists who previously traveled toward Alexandria discovered options elsewhere. Rome, additional locations. Athens established competing centers. The center's dominance regarding gathering concluded. More worrying stayed the transforming philosophical environment, with expanding belief systems and ultimately becoming official authority belief. Comprehension that received commemoration for multiplicity grew distrusted. Earlier philosophy, Egyptian authored artifacts, inquiry unconnected to doctrine, everything turned progressively contested. The ultimate strike happened in 391 when the regent prohibited prior belief structures. The sanctuary repository complicated, keeping the center's continuing gathering was destroyed. Whether flames from mass action or military motion stays debated. The consequence, unambiguous. The remaining holdings disappeared. What endured? Fragments. Reproductions created and carried elsewhere. Publications interpreted into language of the medieval Islamic regions, maintained in libraries spanning medieval Islamic geography, persisting for future revival. Yet the joined comprehension that Alexandria gathered, the investigations persisting just in the gathering, remained permanently gone. We cannot determine the totality of disappeared materials. This constitutes intellectual loss's cruelest aspect. You shed not solely materials, yet comprehension of shed materials. Now I wish to address matter that initially appears trivial, something so customary we rarely contemplate it.
Have you resided in a residence with inadequately sealed access? You understand how an individual breach might cancel out a total warming mechanism. Currently envision dealing with that breach during sub-zero, whenever the atmosphere comes at you sideways comparable to its personally bothered by your presence. The opening of a winter teepee needed to manage precisely that, and it accomplished this having a variety of composed brilliance that contemporary engineers might acquire from. The foremost safeguard concerned position. Teepees typically manage direction, departing from the predominant atmosphere activity that charged throughout the grasslands with the subtlety of a furious beast. This wasn't superstition.
Not the legacy variety loaves that health-focused individuals concentrate upon. We mean the compact, unremarkable, occasionally rough sustenance that constitute a nutrition base throughout the period from the termination of Rome to the emergence of contemporary civilization. The transformation of grain sustenance from nutrition basis to worldwide commodities signifies a kind of unhurried catastrophe that parallels the center's terminal phase or Cleopatra's requirement to depart into displacement. It constitutes disappearance camouflage as development. Here lies what contemporary baking has virtually completely abandoned: duration. Prolonged fermentation wasn't feasible because cooks possessed entry to marketplace yeast. They didn't. Yet since biology functioned per nature's velocity, a period baker sustained a biological culture. This arrangement contained organic yeast plus microvarieties. These weren't artificial organisms sustained in laboratory settings. They constituted complicated arrangements, continually shifting, accommodating to temperature alterations, influenced by surroundings. When grain flour combined with this culture, the microbes revived. They absorbed carbohydrates in the flour. Metabolizing these carbohydrates generated carbon dioxide, producing chambers that permit rising. Additionally, they manufactured acidic liquids that transformed bread composition. This transformation wasn't instantaneous. Prolonged fermentation endured from 8 to beyond 20 hours. Mixture happened in late afternoon. Baking transpired subsequently, periodically extended, interval dependent on temperature, culture potency, preferred taste, and cook experience. This extended time frame facilitated something remarkable regarding digestibility: protein transformation. Gluten constitutes a protein creation forming when flour combines with moisture. It produces stretchiness by generating extensive lattices. These networks grant bread its suppleness. Nonetheless, gluten presents digestive complications. These proteins are intricate, demanding substantial digestive exertion to disassemble. Numerous folks encounter actual gluten complications or immunity responses to gluten intake. Throughout extended fermentation, microvarieties create proteins disassembling protein chains. A 20-hour fermentation might lessen protein by 50-70%, contrasted with untreated mixture. The protein stain becomes fractured into smaller components, simpler for stomachs. Furthermore, fermentation-generated acids lessen phytic component. This component, present in whole grain foods, attaches to minerals, making them biologically inaccessible. Sometimes labeled an antagonistic element not because it damages, but because it constrains mineral absorption. Fermentation dismantles phytic component, liberating minerals for absorption. The microbes furthermore generate B vitamins, particularly folate and B12. These vitamins remain minimal initially in grains, yet fermentation creates them as byproducts of micrometabolism. Likewise, prolonged fermentation deconstructs complicated carbohydrate structures into simpler structures. This influences how rapidly carbohydrates get consumed and how drastically glucose concentrations shift thereafter. To get why grain sustenance became so successful nourishment-wise, you must grasp the flour. Medieval flour wasn't the tender, pale, gentle substance contemporary retail establishments provide. The substance so overprocessed, it practically does your thinking for you. Medieval flour was crushing ground, hearty, unfiltered, and nutritionally forceful. It didn't simply inhabit your grain sustenance, it participated. Crushing grinding signified that anything in the grain got pulverized collectively. The protecting layer, the core, the middle section, the minerals, anything additional to crusher felt similar. The output was flour filled with nutrients, fiber, and normal fats that contemporary medical professionals would appreciate, while contemporary figures would immediately attempt converting into something costly and advertised. Medieval flour, conversely, was thorough in most senses. Since crushers didn't distinguish, they ground anything whether it preferred it or not. This meant medieval grain sustenance contained fiber supporting intestinal health, metallic components supporting physical power, mineral components supporting muscular operation, mineral components supporting disease resistance, beneficial fatty components supporting vigor, and microscopic stone fragments providing flavor. Definitely medieval persons consumed minute quantities of crushed stone, yet this merely signified their grain sustenance, included additional minerals and a slight crunchy shock. That constitutes what you term valuation. And since it was completely processed grain, medieval grain sustenance kept you satisfied. Not satisfied until subsequent hunger strikes. No, this constituted satisfied, completely satisfied. Satisfied till daylight disappeared, and your neighbors borrowed your animal variety of satisfied. Medieval farmers could execute extended operations since their grain sustenance provided persistent vigor, not the chemical excitement plus absence contemporary grain sustenance delivers. We've journeyed via various periods and differing categories of human troubles. The warrior discovering purpose via distributed hardship, the organization that compiled intelligence, the monarch steering hardship via comprehension, and the grain sustenance that converted from advantage-creating base to industrial commodity. Disconnected they appear. Yet a principle extends underneath them, the capacity to decline submitting to the erasure that situations propose as unavoidable. Warriors demonstrated that significance might be manufactured despite inescapable vanishing, that neighborhoods might alter suffering from separateness into distributed individual sensation. The center expressed humanity's perspective that comprehension warranted dedicating extraordinary capability. The monarch achieved command not via bloodline or attraction, yet via relentless expansion and declining, acknowledging the sidelining effective administrators attempted executing. She educated herself via hardship and surface reinforced. Grain sustenance nourished not via chance, yet via every aspect. The vegetation, the preparation, the milling, getting improved for genuine individual advantage as opposed to commercial practicality. Every includes opposition, not necessarily armed opposition, Yet the continual affirmation that greater approaches exist, that we needn't acknowledge the performance of commercial methods or the desperation of situation. This doesn't constitute homesickness for the period anteceding contemporary civilization. That era contained genuinely difficult characteristics. Yet understandings remain in regarding how populations address particular obstacles, grain sustenance that absolutely nourished as opposed to purely filling, neighborhoods providing connection as opposed to separateness, the commitment to comprehension extending beyond rapid advantage. Contemporary civilization has predominantly substituted these concepts for performance, financial advantage, and ease.
Heat productivity additionally supported the teepee. An individual modest thermal resource might heat the complete interior devoid of wasting gas. Meanwhile, frontier settlers required stacks of vegetation that might function as modest military bases just to maintain their houses at a level marginally above Arctic suffering. They invested whole periods collecting vegetation, piling vegetation, and discussing whether they possessed sufficient vegetation. All throughout the teepee's occupants merely preserved a modest thermal source and got about their routines. Subsequently, there's flexibility, which stayed absolutely overseas to frontier engineering. When a residence got constructed, it remained tied to that piece of property permanently.
These don't constitute revolutionary concepts. These constitute requesting expertise that humans recognize completely anteceding performance became the primary measure of worth. The inquiry isn't whether we might reimagine the period anteceding contemporary civilization. We're unable to and shouldn't. Prior medicinal science was brutal. Prior existence time frames were reduced. The inquiry involves whether we might extract knowledge from how populations anteceding our period tackled particular troubles, while preserving the progress we've accomplished. That appears feasible. That might constitute the principal undertaking of our moment.
The teepee furthermore succeeded since it wasn't basically a framework. It combined throughout a way of presence. It maintained flexibility, unity, periodic motion, searching phases, environment variation, and spiritual routines. A residence wasn't merely a spot regarding repose. It permitted households and complete communities to observe the periods of the property. Throughout winter tightened its control, the teepee didn't oppose the atmosphere. It outsmarted it. Contemporary engineers examining practical architecture frequently locate themselves calmly impressed. Because the maximum darkness approached, individuals observed the transformation having a combination of dread plus determination. The atmosphere within their perspectives couldn't merely disappear. It deteriorated. All reduced a hint that an otherworldly battle remained unfolding, separating illumination plus the components wanting to engulf it. Also, considering Vikings had been genuinely realistic, they furthermore held strong convictions regarding imperceptible influences governing the planet's patterns. Yule permitted them a means regarding impacting that cycle, or perhaps experiencing similar to they might. Throughout the lengthy residence, expectancy increased. Contemporary branches embellished the supports, their fragrance combining with combustion aromas. Kids absorbed sagas regarding old periods, courageous forebears, plus heavenly beings contending versus frost demons to maintain the planet. The crackling hearth transformed into the foundation regarding presence, giving definitely not merely comfort, yet confidence. Throughout the atmosphere blazed inside plus the fire persisted, so persisted confidence. That embodied the substance regarding Yule. Throughout a realm whereby darkness seemed timeless, the Vikings ventured to accumulate, honor, plus appreciate the transformation of the period. Throughout the chilly control of the season, whenever nutrient inventories diminished plus illumination vanished, honoring Freya turned into a query regarding both admiration plus persistence. The picked swine, frequently the greatest creature a household might create, accepted tremendous regard. Throughout certain locations, this creature underwent brushing plus embellished having garlands otherwise bands, a symbolical action confirming its part throughout maintaining the group. This didn't symbolize a mindless behavior regarding slaughter. This symbolized a serious exchange, existence granted hoping that existence might persist. This behavior, known as Bali, remained thought to reinforce the connections separating individuals plus the divine. The flesh subsequently underwent cooked throughout an exposed thermal source, its scent combining having pine plus smoke, completing the lengthy residence having an abundance which momentarily eliminated the harshness outside. The feast that succeeded remained communal, all peace regarding swine holding symbolic significance. Consuming it implied joining regarding Freya's advantage, contributing regarding the confidence that territories might flourish again plus that the atmosphere might reclaim its capability. Offspring underwent instructed which the swine's phantom might rush via the heavens, directing the coming illumination returning toward the globe regarding humans. Accordingly, the swine elimination wasn't merely a habit. It embodied an agreement, a guarantee which the Vikings might persist throughout the maximum darkness regarding the period plus a prayer which the heavenly beings reciprocally might compensate their commitment having abundance whenever period returned. If the swine elimination represented the holy substance regarding Yule, then me embodied the treasure of the occasion. Regarding the Viking creativity, me didn't exist merely as a beverage. All individual consumed sequentially, directed via habit plus traditions which reinforced unity. Absolutely nobody consumed independently. A vessel elevated signified a welcome. Occasionally regarding honoring the heavenly beings, periodically regarding appreciating forebears, furthermore periodically regarding basically conveying appreciation regarding surviving another period. The Vikings thought which discussed beverage-bonded individuals jointly, eliminating the boundaries which suffering typically created. Since the thermal resource roared regarding the middle hearth, the lengthy residence obtained living. Colors danced via arranged timber, flickering comparable to phantoms which accompanied the celebration. Throughout the maximum darkness, if remoteness might consume happiness, legends connected all jointly throughout a mutual mythic presence. They maintained principles, maintained recollection, plus encouraged confidence. This demonstrates this isn't coincidental which lifestyles having robust traditions typically create great power. They comprehend the methods to convert dread directly into narrative plus narrative directly into power. Therefore, since the atmosphere held outside plus snow piled versus the surfaces, the Vikings relaxed engulfed regarding the comfort regarding language, trusting accurately which histories might outshine perhaps the maximum darkness. Manufactured wooden entertainment regarding offspring, comfortable mittens, contemporary equipment, adornments, alternatively straightforward appeals regarding security. Periodically a carefully created cutting tool, alternatively a portion regarding jewelry exchanged palm, yet the feeling mattered considerably greater versus the item. Gifts embodied appreciation, commitment, plus the affirmation regarding ties which the group required regarding survival. It's evident this strategy regarding giving remains considerably much healthier versus what we perform presently. Vikings weren't attempting regarding astounding. They attempted regarding reinforcing interactions. Peculiar illuminations, tempests, plus changing clouds underwent regarded as omens. The Arctic illuminations, which we currently realize logically, had been observed via quite a few regarding reflections regarding Valkyries traversing regarding conflict. What stands out is if you'd experienced absolutely nothing medical clarification plus observed the atmosphere ignite having glowing earth-friendly thermal energy, fighter females traveling 6 the assault, might seem perfectly sensible understanding. Throughout these convictions, you'll transform to regarding greater than a periodic festivity. This transformed to a planetary spectacle, a note which humans stayed by no means genuinely independent throughout the winter darkness. Since the season gradually launched its icy hold plus the time started increasing regarding orientation toward season, the character regarding Yule continued. Regarding the Vikings, the celebration didn't represent merely an instant regarding festivity. This embodied a viewpoint regarding what this suggested regarding persist. What stands out is I believe this represents the reason Yule persists captivating individuals presently. This hadn't remained created regarding wealth, alternatively abundance. This remained created regarding scarcity, power, plus the straightforward individual requirement regarding producing illumination throughout gloomy intervals. What renders Yule particularly engaging involves the way this progressed. The persistence regarding these customs indicates the way profoundly Yule connected with the rhythms regarding individual presence. On the foundation, this had been regarding hope, something all community comprehends. The Vikings didn't commemorate since existence had been straightforward. They commemorated since existence had been demanding. Additionally, regarding myself, this represents the majority impressive variety regarding commemoration. This stays bold. This stays passionate. This symbolizes regarding joy isn't the opposition regarding difficulty. This embodies the way individuals battle versus this. These days, whenever we illuminate flames, assemble having enjoyed types, alternatively communicate aged accounts beside a winter thermal source, we're repeating urges which remain ages aged. We might not any longer concern the fact that the atmosphere might vanish permanently, yet the instinct regarding forcing versus darkness continues. Additionally, this greater plus anything else represents the enduring heritage regarding Yule. A celebration which educated individuals definitely not merely regarding continuing the season, yet concerning changing this directly into anything significant, communal, plus significantly individual. Protectors continued the portion, monitored the points, plus maintained consciousness throughout the extensive reaches regarding calmness whenever risk thought remote, yet remained present. Their lifestyles represented instability regarding habit, techniques, plus the consistently existing understanding which perhaps the calmest daybreak might transform critical throughout an immediate. If the fortress possessed a front area throughout periods regarding tranquility, this remained the portal residence. This arrangement, frequently ignored throughout flicks, symbolized the majority methodically vital congestion point throughout the complete barrier. All individual, all freight, all creature, plus all whisper regarding media proceeded via this. Plus genuinely, I believe gate residents' responsibility remained possibly the greatest fascinating plus the majority tension-inducing task a protector might obtain. You embodied the fortress's display, choosing which entered the realm plus what stayed outside. The gate residence wasn't basically a doorway. This symbolized an covered gauntlet. Protectors positioned regarding several amounts, monitoring via arrow openings, structure surfaces, plus barrier parapets. Below them happened murder gaps, reduced apertures inside the upper that granted burning precipitation, sizzling sand, alternatively rock regarding pour toward intruders in situation regarding assault. Additionally, absolutely, despite what contemporary stories declare, boiling oils remained hardly ever utilized since this remained costly. Personally, I locate this particular detail amusing. Perhaps throughout conflict, practicality overwhelmed spectacle. Throughout ground amount, the primary portal stayed strengthened via metal bands plus helped via a substantial portcullis, a spiked metallic framework which might crash downward within instants. The protector accountable regarding the tension managing required to remain trusted totally. Having an individual extraction regarding a line alternatively discharge regarding a handle, he might permit access, catch intruders, alternatively seal the fortress. The capability plus duty had been enormous. Day-to-day activity regarding the gate residents appeared similarly strong. Regarding visitors arrived, protectors requested concerns. What is your identity? From where are you departing? What goal perform you here? They assessed carts regarding covert equipment, requested composed authorization regarding access, plus maintained close focus regarding anybody performing anxious alternatively deceptive. Smugglers, spies, bothered peasants, opportunistic robbers. Anybody might be a danger. Additionally, regarding myself, this quantity regarding sociable testing might generate many contemporary folks insane. Yet regarding medieval protectors, this symbolized straightforwardly component regarding the employment. Tension continuously increased whenever nobles approached. Their gathering created bottlenecks, animals increased, helpers panicked, plus everybody, plus the protectors, remained anticipated regarding revealing flawless techniques. A single collapse, a single remark, perhaps an unintentional postponement might result regarding penalty. The gate residents furthermore remained whereby information showed up initially. Intervals following intervals, protectors walked the barriers, ground passageways via the apex regarding the surfaces, maintaining observation regarding risks the two proximate plus distant. This might appear straightforward, yet surface patrols demanded intense perspectives, continuous alertness, plus a practically unnatural patience regarding weariness. This reveals that this employment was created regarding testing anybody wasn't mentally hard. Excessive quiet plus you shed emphasis. Excessive turmoil plus you most likely expired. The barrier path typically began regarding a single foundation framework plus wound regarding the complete range. Throughout the method, protectors examined arrow apertures, accepted above fortifications regarding observe the countryside, plus examined highways, timberlands, plus territories regarding motion. A lone figure approaching the fortress might be innocuous, alternatively might be a scout regarding a bigger pressure. All structure regarding the panorama needed to become examined. Each shape regarding the horizon had to be assessed. Every sound mattered. A barking canine, distant smoke, a shine regarding metallic throughout the brightness. All element might indicate danger. My genuine adoration goes to the protectors that managed working presently devoid of continuously picturing their private dramatic misfortune into the pit. Yet the emotional difficulty remained sole 50% regarding the effort. The psychological demand had been genuine. Hours-long patrols recreated day-long created a tempo which numbed the capabilities. Protectors needed to fight the increasing dullness regarding habit. Overlook an element wasn't a substitute. Quite a few fortresses launched certain checkpoints, alternatively routine notifications regarding make protectors continue conscious. A sergeant might seem unexpectedly regarding examine a protector's consciousness. Request what they'd noticed, which had been regarding the path, alternatively if vapor had increased via the neighboring community. Neglect the examination, plus you might locate yourself regarding garbage cleaning responsibility, alternatively even worse, regarding the evening change. In spite of the monotony, patrols offered protectors a special comprehension regarding the globe beyond the fortress. They recognized the property, the visitor designs, the climate switches. They remained the initially regarding think if anything thought strange. Plus, throughout medieval periods, instinct represented 50% the employment. A protector regarding patrols necessary to combine techniques having instinct, examining a geography whereby danger might assemble calmly regarding purely beyond the trees. Ultimately, surface patrols remained the fortress's center regarding motion. Persistent, conscious, plus completely vital. If times patrols had been tedious, evening watches had been downright harsh. When the atmosphere went past the ridges plus the fortress surrendered regarding darkness, all modified. The atmosphere increased cooler, sounds continued additional, plus all shadow appeared regarding contain a risk. This reveals that this represented the majority mentally demanding element regarding a protector's presence. Humans basically aren't created regarding consciousness throughout absolute darkness. Yet, medieval protectors had been anticipated regarding executing perfectly. Evening watches underwent separated regarding adjustments, typically enduring couple of regarding a pair of intervals. The objective remained straightforward. Prevent weariness, yet by no means permit the fortress travel unseen. Protectors positioned by themselves regarding surfaces, inside frameworks, plus regarding the portal residents, every retaining a lantern alternatively remaining proximate regarding a brazier regarding comfort. Illumination remained both an advantage plus a curse. This assisted protectors notice, yet this furthermore created them obvious targets. Quite a few selected regarding remain partially concealed, enabling their perspectives modify regarding the darkness instead regarding depending regarding flickering flame. Appears turned into the adversary. A loose stone regarding a surface, atmosphere filtering throughout vegetation, a wild creature moving regarding the outside courtyard. Any audio might be regarded as a danger. What stands out is I cannot fault them. Throughout an period regarding constant battle plus abrupt strikes, anxiousness embodied an existence capability. A protector that overlooked anything unusual might sentence the complete fortress. Regarding remain conscious, protectors implemented methods. Biting their tongues, wandering throughout circles, whispered wishes, alternatively rhythmically striking their resources. Resting regarding responsibility embodied among the maximum serious wrongdoings imaginable. I personally consider this inside danger even more terrifying. You might ready regarding foes outside. You couldn't ready regarding a companion abruptly becoming traitor. In spite of the dread, protectors adjusted, their capabilities became more intense, their instincts improved. Throughout period, darkness itself transformed a recognizable associate. A broad, silent fight area they discovered regarding traverse. Also, whenever dawn ultimately shattered, coating the fortress surfaces golden, all protector regarding responsibility experienced a quiet victory. One additional darkness continued, one additional daybreak acquired. Throughout a globe devoid of electrical illumination, transmission equipment, alternatively monitoring cameras, medieval fortresses depended seriously regarding methods regarding recognition, watchwords, codes, plus controlled routines which instructed protectors which belonged additionally which definitely performed definitely not. What stands out is I believe this represents among the greatest intelligent yet maximum undervalued elements regarding fortress safety. Individuals picture medieval battle as genuine rough capability, yet the reality shows knowledge plus subtlety remained similarly vital. The evening watchword, occasionally referred to as the secret phrase, remained vital. Additional utilized phone additionally reply phrasing shouted regarding parapets. A protector might shout out in line plus the following tower regarding, that reacted having the coordinating phrase. This prevented attackers via softly substituting alternatively executing a guard devoid of recognition. A sole misplaced brick alternatively smuggled implement might transform into a catastrophe. Throughout the fortress, helpers plus inhabitants furthermore required methods regarding demonstrating they belonged. Several dressed badges alternatively medallions. Additional adopted stringent times regarding restriction. Following darkness, perhaps recognizable appearance might be detained till authenticated. Additionally, personally, this degree regarding carefulness demonstrates precisely how fragile medieval presence actually seemed. An instant regarding misplaced confidence might result in the fortress falling. These protection mechanisms weren't basically bureaucratic customs. They embodied survival resources. They prevented ambushes, ended infiltrators, plus granted protectors to query anybody, regardless of their rank. Throughout a period whereby disguise plus deception had been regular strategies, the straightforward password might be the solitary issue separating a quiet darkness plus a harmful shock. Basically, watchwords maintained everybody living additionally maintained fortresses via transforming into catastrophe locations having pleasant engineering. Castle frameworks had been greater compared to spectacular architectural components. They represented nerve centers regarding observation. Anybody positioned throughout a framework inhabited throughout a globe regarding atmosphere, elevation, plus relentless observation. What stands out is I believe framework protectors possessed among the toughest emotional obligations. You weren't throughout the commotion regarding the courtyard, alternatively the comfort regarding the gate residence. You remained isolated, frequently frigid, plus staring regarding the perspective regarding intervals, expecting regarding something, whatever, regarding transfer. All framework provided a distinctive perspective. Via the greatest amounts, a lookout might notice communities, timberlands, highways, plus periodically perhaps the shimmer regarding a stream a great distance aside. This all-encompassing perspective created frameworks the fortress's initially notification mechanism. A smoke, a distant dirt wave, or perhaps the shine regarding metallic throughout the brightness might all indicate approaching difficulty. The tension had been huge. Picture regarding the initially individual accountable regarding distinguishing and military prior to this became your surfaces. Missed the signs plus the fortress might possess moments, definitely not intervals, regarding ready. Within the framework, life remained restricted. Material surfaces caught cooler atmosphere, stairwells spiraled firmly, plus arrow apertures permitted barely sufficient room regarding notice plus fire, yet definitely not sufficient regarding remain pleasant. Protectors got opportunities regarding heating their hands regarding modest braziers, attempting to not shed flexibility. This reveals that frostbite remained equally much a danger as all enemy siege apparatus. Yet comfort remained an extravagance. The suspicious appearance near the tree area? Transfer this. A vendor group approaching? Transfer this. Anything odd regarding the community? Certainly transfer this. Framework protectors turned into specialists regarding examining the geography similar to a residing chart. Despite the aloneness, there was a certain satisfaction throughout framework responsibility. You remained essentially above all, nearer regarding the atmosphere, the climate, plus the initially hints regarding danger. This reveals that framework protectors embodied the fortress's perspectives, plus devoid of them, all additional protection measure might crumble directly into disorder. Trapdoors provided an incomparable goal. Certain embodied straightforward wooden sections which might be extracted regarding release opponents directly into pits. Additional had been concealed underneath hay, dirt, alternatively perhaps ornamental flooring. The objective wasn't constantly regarding kill. This embodied regarding divide, postpone, alternatively confuse attackers. Picture operating regarding a fortress hallway, adrenaline pushing, plus abruptly the terrain below you vanishes. This is chaotic, humiliating, plus incredibly productive. Exactly what I personally appreciate concerning all of these components represents the way psychological these people had been. This reveals that medieval protectors inhabited a persistent condition regarding managed stress. Usually examining, usually listening, usually organizing regarding the worst. Yet, in spite of the danger, fortress protectors produced steadiness throughout a globe which hardly ever provided all of it. Their awareness maintained groups secure, guarded useful possessions, plus upheld the delicate feeling regarding purchase medieval community required regarding continue. They weren't fighters. They weren't observed heroes. Yet devoid of them, fortresses embodied practically nothing greater compared to pretty material sculptures expecting regarding collapse. Drinking providers roamed separating stalls having sloshing containers since street fountains didn't remain consistently secure. The area had been enormous, pipes dripped, plus toxins stayed regular. Fresh consuming substance embodied the gamble. Affordable fermented drink, surprisingly, typically remained more secure compared to drinking substance. That clarifies the reason why quite a few Romans transferred regarding somewhat inebriated prior to midday. All feeling acquired attacked. The clang regarding metallic drinking vessels, the declaration regarding providers, the scent regarding frying seafood alternatively toasting peanuts, the pain regarding smoke via charcoal braziers. Rome remained by no means quiet, by no means continue. Yet beneath the disorder remained tempo, the peculiar purchase simply natives recognized. All possessed the desired stall, the relied vendors, the everyday regimen. Plus regarding normal people, the bazaar remained greater compared to a spot to acquire. This embodied whereby information distribute, stories increased, connections had been created, plus presence folded away a noisy daybreak during the time that. Throughout a location regarding countless regarding a million's hearts, the bazaar embodied the defeating center, plus this began working prior to the atmosphere perhaps considered increasing. If the available atmosphere spots embodied the respiratory system regarding the Roman bazaar, the eating facilities embodied its tummy, reduced, vapor-filled, usually complete, plus usually energetic. All these reduced avenue shops arranged key highways plus back alleys, all one practically inadequate regarding the counter. Several clay containers plus the owner that has been perspiring screaming regarding consumers. It's evident Rome created fast food customs ages prior to contemporary locations. They basically substituted plastic coverings having wooden containers plus replaced beverage regarding affordable diluted fermented drink. The scent regarding sizzling beef, frying meals, plus flavored chickpeas packed the atmosphere therefore thickly, which perhaps the deities regarding Mount Olympus might experience envious. Rome embodied this location which operated regarding avenue meals, definitely not since individuals appreciated ease, yet since the majority possessed absolutely no cooking areas. What stands out is I believe the Romans currently improved the art of grab-and-go years prior to this turned into the contemporary sensation. Providers prepared regarding movable braziers, giving curls regarding smoke directly into the warm, dusty highways. The greatest crowd pleasers had been straightforward yet delicious. When the Roman community existed the governmental neural system regarding the nation, in that case the avenue bazaars remained the defeating, chaotic middle. Regarding proceed via a person embodied the complete submission regarding the capabilities. Picture, seem, scent, the majority overwhelmed during the time that. It's evident a period vacationer might survive regarding 5 instants prior to pleading regarding earplugs plus refreshing atmosphere. The sound happened initially. Providers yelling costs. Bakers hollering which the meals was still comfortable. Seafood providers screaming above one another regarding persuade customers the capture remained fresh regarding Ostia, despite the fact that all recognized 150% the seafood invested the evening throughout the bucket regarding questionable drinking substance. Put into young adults chuckling otherwise wailing, equines bleating, canines growling, plus the periodic inebriated rambling regarding governmental positions, plus you obtained a soundscape which created contemporary area site visitors seem peaceful. Subsequently happened the audiences. Folks didn't proceed throughout directly outlines. They drifted similar to drinking substance throughout unpredictable styles. A person instant you had been compressed separating a couple of females managing containers regarding the mines. Another, a fighter slashed directly via the middle regarding the avenue comparable to this individual possessed the location that to become reasonable Romans type of thought fighters performed. This reveals that browsing Roman bazaars should have identification regarding an Olympic game. Preventing providers, traveling regarding spilled olives, preventing loosened poultry. Your reflexes needed to become intense. Aromas layered on their own similar to the complicated fragrance removed terribly incorrect. A tale communicator obtained an audience having stories regarding heroes simply regarding get blocked out via the passing cart regarding containers. All moment anything brand new occurred. Yet beneath the frustrating seam plus clutter, the bazaar possessed tempo nearly similar to the residing organism. Folks relied regarding this chaos regarding continue. This provided them, used them, entertained them, attached them. Indeed, Roman bazaars had been loud, filthy, plus exhausting. Yet they additionally embodied dynamic, communal, plus filled regarding individual capacity. Additionally, personally, they embodied the closest point the traditional globe possessed regarding an area's heart. Uncooked, unfiltered, plus living. When the Roman Avenue Bazaar embodied the residing organism, next thieves embodied the parasites connecting regarding the exterior. Consistent, wise, plus difficult regarding remove. Petty crime didn't embody the aspect impact regarding bazaar presence. This embodied created directly into this. Throughout countless regarding physiques loaded collectively plus gold handbags hanging regarding connections, the location embodied a paradise regarding pickpockets. What stands out is I believe Roman thieves deserved the diploma throughout unlawful creativity since several of the approaches had been disturbingly amazing. The greatest typical thieves embodied young adults. When you decreased these regarding the genuine Roman bazaar regarding 5 instants, 50% might pass out. Additionally, the additional 50% might operate returning regarding the period device. Let us begin with the highways on their own. Rome possessed countless regarding countless citizens, yet absolutely no garbage vehicles, absolutely no sewer gates, plus absolutely no town-wide washing routine. Waste piled up regarding sections. Meals particles decayed regarding rocks plus roaming creatures roamed regarding adding the possessed presence. Put into spilled fermented drink, seafood guts, individual waste. It's evident Romans created exceptional respiratory system plus thicker persistence basically regarding existing there. Additionally, subsequently there was clearly the filth underfoot. Sediment developed whereby drinking substance runoff combined having organic waste. Shoes slid. Garments received filthy. You needed to observe whereby you moved. Plus perhaps after that, you'd most likely move throughout something questionable. Community helpers periodically removed, yet just whenever somebody grumbled loudly sufficient. Usually, Rome relied regarding sunlight, period, plus simple optimism regarding managing the garbage. Yet, plus right here is the peculiar component, individuals appreciated the bazaars anyhow. The genuine heart from the empire continued there, regarding all times, working regarding survival.